How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I don't judge, I don't roast, I don't fight. I'm not here to debate. This is not a debate show. This is not a show where people from different parts of the political spectrum yell at each other and call each other names and try to prove which one of them, two of them, is better at memorizing facts. That is not what we do here. This show is about talking about the issues in a substantive way and in a not fighty way, so that we can all go back to having a shared understanding of what's going on in the world and what's going on in the government. Because how can we solve problems if we can't even agree on what the problems are, if they really are even problems? So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, regardless of if you're a Democrat or Republican, something in the middle or something on the outskirts. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the show where you can ask all your questions about politics. Nobody's going to judge you or roast you or make fun of you for not knowing things. No such thing as a dumb question here on the show. So it can be as simple or as complicated as you like. Everybody is welcome, Republican, Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I'm not here to roast you or yell at you for your political beliefs. It is just good faith engagement on the substance. So if you got any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat, and we will get to answering them. No such thing as a dumb question. It can be as simple as you like. I know that when you're first trying to learn about politics, it can be really intimidating. It can feel like trying to learn a new language because there's all these different abbreviations and people's last names that just get bandied about as though we're all supposed to automatically know who these people are or what the words like filibuster or reconciliation mean. Bromide says, has Trump committed any crimes? Yes, Trump has committed a lot of crimes. Many, many, many crimes. Let me know if you would like me to go into more detail on that, Bromide. But yeah, he committed crimes before he was president. He committed crimes when he was president. He committed crimes in between being president, and he is currently committing crimes. Even as I say these words, he is committing crimes. JJ says, I would like you to explain democratic socialism. Sure. So, democratic socialism is a broad term that encompasses a palette of policy ideas. They tend to lean like economic populist, meaning that they believe in taxing the wealthy and taxing giant corporations and then using that money to make sort of a more equitable and just society. Democratic socialists tend to look for a political model here in America and an economic model that's similar to what you see in like Nordic countries, where wealthy people are taxed a lot, and in exchange for that, everybody kind of gets like better social services like universal health care and paid time off and maternity leave and paternity leave, uh, public college, subsidized housing, stuff like that. It distinguished itself from the more sort of like center left part of the Democratic Party in that they're a little bit more aggressive about pursuing some of their policy agendas. And if you kind of look for the candidates that tend to ascribe themselves the Democratic Socialist label, you see people like Mamdani in New York, AOC, Bernie Sanders, James Tallarico. Yeah, there's lots of them. All right, let me know if that answers your question. Hold on a second. JJ. Okay, all right. JJ says, but the Nordic countries have a lower tax rate for business. I don't know if that's accurate, JJ, but even still, that is basically what it is. All right, Phil says, Abdul El Sayed. That's not a question. Kana Lingua says, James Della what now? James Tallarico. Phil says, I'll take either at this point, LOL. Either what? Brian Barbita says, thoughts on the committee voting to hold Fauci in contempt? It's such an unbelievable and shocking waste of time. Like, there are real people struggling right now. We've got a forever war happening in Iran that is raising prices, costing billions of dollars a day, costing human lives. We've got ICE running around just fucking murdering people on the street and illegally detaining people in torture prisons. But instead, we're going to relitigate what Dr. Fauci may or may not have known or said during the pandemic, which was fucked up by Donald Trump. You know, like this, it's such a blatant distraction technique and a gimme to Trump himself, whose ego won't let anybody, you know, do something good. And if he did anything wrong, they got to find They got to find somebody else that did it. You know, it's so fucking stupid. All right, James Abbott says, "Did you see congressional Republicans voted?" Yeah, yeah. All right, Willie, what's up? Jersey Rican says, "I will support the winner of the Democratic Party. Will you? Let's unite, please." Oh yeah, 100%. If you are a centrist Democrat and a progressive wins the primary, you need to vote for the progressive. If you're a progressive and a centrist wins the primary, you need to vote for the centrist. We cannot allow Donald Trump to sit any more judges. We cannot allow Donald Trump's nominees for various agencies just coast through, even though they are wildly unqualified, unserious, just loyalists who are willing to break the law for Donald Trump. We cannot allow them to be running these hearings where they're just wasting time and taxpayer money just chasing conspiracy theories when there are real fucking crimes happening within the government that need to be being investigated. Funkytron says, "Who is your ideal candidate? What is the closest example to past current candidates?" I mean, there's no like one single candidate that I think is like the best. I usually talk about Chris Murphy a lot just because I think he's great, but there's a lot of the Democratic Party's got a real deep bench right now of just awesome people who I think are doing great work and are great communicators. You know, everybody loves Ossoff and Tallarico and Andy Bashir and Josh Shapiro. AOC obviously is great. Mamdani, but what are we talking about? We're talking about president, because obviously he would be disqualified because he's wasn't born here. What is up, Mikhail Meme? Good to see you again. Oh, did I call you James Abbott? Sorry, man. Yeah, no lies detected. R.E. the baby brain. All right, Shane says, "We did plenty of conspiracy theories last administration." Shane, no, we didn't. Deep bench on the left. Shane, so you're not really asking questions, so you're out of here. Albert says, "Why did Democrats create the affordability hoax?" We didn't. The Trump administration in the first term created the affordability problem. The Biden administration started work on solving it, but then the American people, in all of their wisdom, decided to give the government back to the Republican Party that caused the affordability crisis, and now it's getting worse. Shock of all shocks. The party that created the problem is not solving the problem. Shocked Pikachu face. Oh boy, oh boy, would I never would have guessed that would have fucking happened. All right, Pokey50 says, "Trump said today the Dem Party is broke and the GOP is flush of money. Any truth to that?" There is a little truth to that. It is true that the DNC is having a little bit of a fiscal crisis because the chair, whose name I can't remember, made what some people might argue were irresponsible investments in districts that are not really voting districts, like Guam, for example. But that does not represent the totality of money that is available to the Democratic Party. Democratic Party does really well with small dollar donations for specific candidates. So, you know, like I'm not really particularly worried about some of the household names being able to fund their campaigns and shit like that. But this has always been true. Like the Republican Party always has more money available than the Democratic Party. Even if it is reported that the Democratic Party has raised more, there is a lot more dark money going into the Republican Party because the Republican Party does the bidding of the billionaire class. And so the billionaire class makes them flush with cash and funds all their PACs and their super PACs so that they can run a whole bunch of propaganda campaigns and then do in-kind contributions by skewing social media algorithms to push their narratives, you know, shit like that. JJ says, "You got to be kidding me. Got to be kidding me about what?" Drew P. Balls says, "It's all Israel money." I don't know what that means. Ask a question. Richie Rich says, "More billionaires vote Democrats." There is no evidence that is the case, Richie Rich. I can argue this 10 ways from Sunday, Richie Rich. Hilarious that's your name when you're trying to make that the case. Hold on a second. Drew is just saying the word Jews now. So, yeah, ask me to give you more information on how the Republican Party is the party of the billionaire class. I'm happy to. I am flush with data on that question. Jeremy Wolf says, by numbers alone, Democrats have more billionaire donors than Republicans. That, again, Jeremy, is inaccurate. I'm pretty confident that I know exactly which article you're referencing, and that article is wildly misleading. Ask me how I know. Happy to go into more detail on that. BB Min says, who are you? My name is Jared Berenstein, and I answer questions about politics. Albert says, do you feel like focusing on trans rights and on Uboricon? What's Uboricon? Yeah, I don't know what Uboricon is a losing strategy. I mean, here's the thing. The Democratic Party doesn't focus on trans rights. The Republican Party focuses on trans rights. They're the ones that came out with that ad, Kamala is for they, them, and we're for you. The Democratic Party wants to talk about putting more money in your pockets, taking it from the wealthy and giving it to you, making your life easier, making your healthcare more affordable, making it so that you can afford to send your kids to college, that you can afford to own a home one day. But the Republicans are the ones that are going, well, if you vote for Democrats, they're going to chop your kid's dick off and turn him into a woman. All right, Jeremy Wolf says it's not the differences in the Republican billionaires donors give a lot more. No, Jeremy Wolf, again, that is inaccurate. Please ask me to tell you why. Geo says, you're a liberal then? I mean, I call myself a progressive Democrat. Liam says, what's your thoughts on the recent news regarding the... Okay, sure. Scranton Strangulus says, did Trump's hair regenerate itself like his ear did? I got to be honest, I have not paid any attention to the Trump's new hair conspiracy theories. Or I don't know if you would call them a conspiracy theory or what. But yeah, that's not even close to being one of my top issues. What is up? Yeah, baby. Good to see you again. Lewis and Brian, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Brian Barbitas' thoughts on Nick Fuentes. I will not say anything about Nick Fuentes that he does not say about himself. He is a self-described anti-Semite. He is a self-described misogynist. He is a self-described white supremacist. So yeah, do not endorse, do not care for that fellow. Mikhail Meme says, would Lincoln be a Democrat today? Definitely, 100%, absolutely. Liam, I already did that one. Stratton Stranglers, Funkytron says, a good example, please, is how much money poured into Michigan and Stephen still lost to Abdul. Yes, I guess. Ryan says, why won't Democrats pass the Save America Act? Ryan, are you still here? I would love to tell you why the Democrats won't pass the Save America Act, and also the Republicans won't pass the Save America Act. Ryan, please ask me. Please ask me about that. I cannot wait to get into that. Our Basketas says, with Dr. Elside winning, what do you predict for the upcoming elections? I mean, political predictions are worthless. I just think that you should do the work to try to make the outcome happen that you want to happen. So let's see here. Liam says Charlie Kirk was a true patriot. So you're the exact guy that tried to get me to say thanks. I'm just going to go ahead and boot that guy. Jeremy Wolf says, Martin political analyst to say you can't put Lincoln in one party over the other since he was a Whig. Jeremy Wolf, you are doing nothing in this chat. I am trying to engage with you on which party is more in league with the billionaire class, and you're just moving on to different topics. Like, that's sus as hell. Either ask a question or leave. S asks, do you support Trump? No. Grunkle Tucker says, why was Abe Lincoln so tall? Genetics. S, I already answered that one. Chuck says, do we have a deal with Iran or do we have to wait until market is closed? I mean, your guess is as fucking good as mine. Trump says that we're both right about to have a deal and also that we're going to do a whole bunch of war crimes against the people in Iran. And the Iranians are saying we're not even talking to them. They're working on a deal with the with Oman about a mutual sort of like they both get to share ownership of the strait and collect a tax on all the boats that are going through. So yeah, great job, Trump administration. All right, Jeremy Wolf says, well, according to Forbes and the New York Times, you're wrong about the billionaire thing. Well, did you read the article, Jeremy Wolf? Or did you just read the headline? Kind of Linguist says, why is TikTok so popular? I don't know. Brian Barbita says, do you feel every perspective brings political value? I mean, everybody has their own perspective, and I guess if every human being that has the ability to vote, they're going to be voting for somebody, and so they have some amount of political power. they will be talking to their friends and family, and that has some sort of political value. So I guess we kind of have to take their perspective into account so that we can engage with them. Okay. Yeah, Jeremy Wolf, still waiting for you. Still waiting. I read the article, and it also shifts during election cycles. What you're doing is dishonest. No, Jeremy Wolf. No. If you read the article, then you would know that they cited something like 80 billionaires, and there's like 1,000 in America alone. The point of the article is that the billionaires that were declaring support were declaring their support more for Kamala Harris than for Donald Trump, but there are a lot of secret billionaires. But if you actually track the donations of billionaires to the Republican Party, it's not even fucking close. 75% of all billionaire political donations go to the Republican Party. So it is clear to me that you are trying to navigate this conversation in a way to obfuscate and make it seem as though it is not clearly that the Republican Party is in the pocket of the billionaire class and the Democratic Party, while some do take money from the billionaire class, are legislating more for the people. Okay, let's see here. JHS says, as a fiscal conservative, am I right to feel with the high government spending the Republican Party is straying? It's not the spending, JHS. It's cutting taxes for the wealthy. Like, the reason why Trump is responsible for, I think, something like 23% of the entire federal deficit is because he cut taxes for the wealthy twice, once in his first term and once in his second term. And that is the reason why we are suffering right now. Like, the answer is not cutting government spending. The answer is, because they already cut government spending. They cut USAID, they've cut welfare, they've cut Medicaid, they cut everything that they can cut, and they're still looking to cut more. And it is not going to make a dent. It's not going to make a dent in the deficit or the debts. All right, Super Gremlin says AIPAC pays both sides. That is accurate, but if you were looking for the party that universally takes AIPAC money, it's the Republican Party. And if you're looking for the party that has politicians in it that do not take AIPAC money, it's the Democratic Party. Okay, Chuck says, anyone doing anything for affordability? The Democratic Party did it during the Biden administration and the Obama administration. The Trump administration is making it worse, and the Republican Party is making it worse. Cohen says, LSU or Alabama, that is not a question about politics. Stop spamming the comments or I will block you. Funkytron says, we are the middle class, are in the bottom, the PACs, lobbyists, then corporations, then foreign countries on both sides. I'm not really sure what you're getting at, Funkytron. User Old Bunch says, it's trickling down though, bro. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Okay, let's see here. 57 Reasons says, neither was taking us off the gold back or robbing the American people of their gold. I don't understand what that means. Congratulations, Cohen. You are out of here. See you later. Santos says, Congress is occupied and colonized. Disagree. TikToker says, what are you talking about? It's Crooked Joe's policies that drove inflation to a 40-year high. That is inaccurate, TikToker. Would you like me to explain why it is inaccurate? Jeremy Wolf says, I think he's talking about the dollar. Maybe. JHS says, my knock on Dems is the government spending and not finding ways to raise taxes for this. Need both, in my opinion. I completely disagree with that. Like, the deficit is largely because cutting taxes for the billionaires and subsidies for massively profitable corporations. The one time in the past 50 years that the government has had a surplus was during the Clinton administration, during a Democratic administration. And if you look at which presidents made it better and which ones made it worse, Democrats made it better by raising taxes on the wealthy. Republicans made it worse by cutting taxes on the wealthy. And if Democrats increased government spending during their tenure, it did not affect the debt or the deficit because they had raised taxes on the wealthy. Ooh, Gustaco says that was just because of the dot-com bubble. An argument could be made, but it's still, is it not accurate to say, though? Could it be said that a Republican administration might not have utilized it as well as the Clinton administration? Okay, Smart Duck says Biden term was the term with the largest added rise to our deficit. That is inaccurate. It is the current Trump administration. Optimist says, what is your view on Islamic takeover? It's not happening. It's a fake thing, Optimist. Brando says, why do conservatives love the Great Replacement theory? They are always looking for, and here's the thing. I'm not talking about voters. I'm talking about movement. I'm talking about talking heads and politicians. Republican politicians are looking for excuses to enact racist policies. And great replacement theory is one of the ways in which they trick people into voting for them so that they can enact racist policies. Alrighty. Alice says, I just wonder how much money can you make and spend in a lifetime? I mean, the billionaire class, they have an issue. They have money sickness. They have gold sickness. They are suffering from a crippling greed that makes 0 sense. Wilson says, what's your thoughts on increasing the federal minimum wage? I'm for it. I'm down with specifying regions. Like maybe you don't need to be paid as much if you are working in a place that has a lower cost of living, but it 100% needs to be raised everywhere. Okay, Holden says affluenza. Yes, 100%. Fart Vendor says, has America become an oligarchy? Yes, but we can fix it. JHS says, I disagree with Dems that push back on data center build out. America is a free market. Thoughts? Yeah, so I do not believe that the free market is enabling these data centers, JHS. I believe that fiscal capture and corruption is what is enabling these data centers. So these guys have raised so much money for this technology that has yet to provide any kind of profit. And then they are using that money to lobby or bribe politicians to let them build these data centers unregulated in people's towns. Their electricity bills skyrocket. There's a whole bunch of pollution that gets put into their water and into their air. They're soaking up all of the potable water in those neighborhoods. Like, that is not the free market that's doing that. That was not the people shopping at the OpenAI store, and OpenAI was just doing really good, so they decided to build some more data centers. Like that's not free market capitalism. That's crony capitalism happening. All right, Ryan says, what do you think of MAGA communists? I don't think they exist. Funkytron says, is capitalism too far gone to the point of corporate capitalism, crony capitalism, and is it too late? Yes, it is corporate and crony capitalism, but no, it is not too late. Mike says, I'm a veteran. Do you think we should get medical for free? No taxes and help with housing? Yes, 100%. Jeremy Wolf says, I have no problem with billionaires. The only problem I have is them borrowing against their assets. Well, I have a problem with billionaires, Jeremy Wolf. The billionaire class is hoarding wealth. It is creating a fiscal drought. The same way that if I started hoarding water from the water table, then it would not be able to replenish into lakes and stuff. It would not be able to evaporate and turn into rain and then come down onto the ground. Also, when you have that much money available to you, it's dangerous. It is dangerous to have that much power, to have that much money. The same way that we shouldn't give people nuclear weapons, we should also not allow people to accumulate wealth north of $1 billion. Heather K says, would women have to re-register if the SAVE Act passes? So the language there is a little unclear, Heather K. I did a little research into this, and you wouldn't have to re-register. But it is very likely that if you are a Democratic voter or part of a demographic that typically votes for the Democratic Party, i.e. women, then you might just happen to be purged from the voter rolls and forced to re-register. So there's not necessarily language in the SAVE Act that says that everybody has to re-register or women have to re-register. But if the Republican Party has the ability to purge you from the voter rolls and force you to re-register, they 100% will. That will mostly be a state-by-state issue. So if you live in a solidly blue state, you're probably okay there. Yeah, if you move, then you're fucked, you know? There you go. All right. Funkytron says, it's hard to think that if you are anti-corporatism, you can't support capitalism, the root issue of that. I disagree. I think that you can have capitalism so long as you regulate it and also you balance it out with, worker-friendly policies and socialized industries. Jeremy Wolf says, is local government more important for everyday Joes? I say yes. Thoughts? I think it's more important than people give it credit for, but it's definitely, I think we ignore federal elections and federal issues at our peril. There's a reason why there are federal troops invading American cities and murdering citizens right now. And it's not because people aren't paying enough attention to their local and state elections. All right, Lorenzo says, does the U.S. have a nuclear bomb? I believe we have a bunch. Mike Brandon says blue states have higher unemployment, more income inequality, progressive policies? ? I don't believe that is accurate, Mike Brandon. If you really want to get into specific stats about quality of life in blue states versus red states, I am always going to put my money on blue states being better places to live. That's not really my area of expertise, though. There's another creator named Nick Powers who has all these spreadsheets that basically make that argument for me. So if you want, I can pull up his data for you, or you can just go check that out yourself. JHS says, as a fiscal conservative, what would you say to get me more to side with the left? The economy always does better under Democrats. All of the major stock market crashes have happened under Republican governance. Democratic administrations create more jobs, and they are the ones who are trying to solve income inequality. So, yeah, it is irresponsible to cut taxes for the wealthy and also cut federal programs that allow poor people to spend money. It kills the economy, basically. I'm happy to go into more detail on that if you like, JHS. Okay, Santo Rey says blue states subsidize red states. That is 100% accurate. Mike Brandon says it is accurate. Again, so says you, random person on the internet, but I do not believe that it is accurate. All right, Chris Kiss says all covered debts. Okay, that's some spam, so we're going to go ahead and block that. Titus says, what do you think about needing ID to be online? It seems like a sledgehammer when we need a scalpel. I think that the issue of children being exposed to information or addictive internet sites is an issue. I think that it really is an issue. But I don't know. Every privacy expert that I hear talking about this says that requiring an ID to go online is not the way to solve it and is a massive infringement on our privacy rights. I don't know what the solution is to that problem, and I don't know if it's worth it just to vote for this to solve the problem of, kids being exposed to toxic websites and also addictive websites. Fart Vendor says, how do we dismantle the oligarchy? There's a bunch of different ways to do it, Fart Vendor. The easiest way for me to explain it is just you have to replace every Republican that is in office with a Democrat, because the platform of the Democratic Party is to dismantle the oligarchy, and the platform of the Republican Party is to increase the oligarchy, strengthen the oligarchy, reinforce the oligarchy, make it worse. Go back to an aristocracy where the rich are the kings and queens and the rest of us are all wage slave serfs working for them. There's more to it, obviously, than that. Like there's protesting and striking and boycotting and putting pressure on industries and breaking up monopolies and increasing workers' spending power and political power and corporate power. But the short version is you get most of those policies just by voting for Democrats over Republicans. All right, JH says, I agree with that take. I wouldn't mind a moderate Democrat for sure. I think a middle ground is good. Honestly, JH, I don't know what the value is that the centrist Democrats have that the progressive Democrats don't. Like, I don't understand what value people think that brings. But I also don't understand the value of the Republican Party at all. So, alrighty, Mike Brandon says, what's more important for individuals, local or federal governments? I'm pretty sure that they both have equal. Jeremy Wolf says, do you think about a flat tax rate? That's what I would prefer, and also get rid of the buy, borrow, die. I don't like a flat tax rate because it just makes life easier for the billionaire class. A flat tax rate is a tax cut for the wealthy, Jeremy Wolf. And I think that you understand at this point that that's not something that I'm about. Okay, Mikhail Meme says, do you think America could become a better country by taking inspiration from the Nordic model of my country? Yes, I do. Alrighty, what is up, Ecuadorian? Good to see you again. Funkytron says, do you believe establishment Democrats are dying? Could die in this more socialist progressive movement push? I believe that is the direction we are moving in. If you look at the primaries that have just happened this year, we are seeing a lot more progressive Democrats winning over centrist Democrats, and I think that that's a positive. That's a move in the right direction. But it's not 100%. Like there are still progressives that are losing to centrists in certain races, and I don't think that's a problem. I think that if people want to vote for the centrist, then they vote for the centrist. If people want to vote for the progressive, then they vote for the progressive. What I think is the issue is people recognizing that the Republican Party is the issue. And so whether you're voting for a centrist or a progressive, once the general election comes around, you vote for the Democrat because they're going to make your life better. Okay, Bobby Production says, do you think we should get rid of the 16th Amendment? No, I don't think that we should get rid of taxes, Bobby. All right, Santo Ray says, we talk about term limits, but what about age limits? Glitch McConnell is a great example. It's very funny. Yeah, I'm down with both of those things. Term limits, age limits. Let's fucking make it happen. JHS says, I vote conservative for the tax cuts and less government spending in hopes of lower inflation business growth. I mean, that only happens under Democratic administrations. You know, like lower inflation and business growth happens more under Democratic administrations than Republican administrations. During Republican administrations, you get tax cuts for the wealthy, but you also get more government, like ICE parading the street in mass, murdering people, detaining people illegally in torture prisons where they're being fed maggot-infested food, and women are being kept from getting medical care because of abortion bans in red states. Like, that's big government shit, JHS. So yeah, what you have in Republican administrations is monopolization. You know, that's not business growth, that's consolidation, and that strangles the economy. Alrighty, Odin's son, great to see you again. Liam French says, what's your opinion on NDAA Section 219? I don't know what that is. Mike Brandon says, progressive policies equal higher unemployment, higher income inequality. Inaccurate, Mike Brandon, that is inaccurate. Jeremy Wolf says, old politicians are the issues. The last 10 years have been horrible. I wouldn't necessarily blame that entirely on old politicians, Jeremy Wolf, but I think we're in agreement that old politicians are an issue. Okay, scrolling up, scrolling Ike. Scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up. Bobby Production says full removal of taxes is the best thing the government could do. That is some billionaire fucking propaganda right there. It looks like we got a snrub. We got a snrub on our hands, everybody. Oh boy, do we got a snrub on our hands. Okay, JHS says, yeah, traditionally I'd rather Trump not spend like there's no tomorrow, but here we are. Why don't you have a problem with raising taxes on the billionaire class, JHS? That's my question. What is the threats that you see there? Okay. Ecuadorian says, wait, what did I do? I'm just saying hi to you, my guy. John Abbott says, the value of having centrist Dems is that it lets people vote for Republican policies without having to take responsibility for voting for Republican policies. Interesting take, John Abbott. I don't know if I'm going to endorse that one, though. Orion says, bro, just yapping. I mean, yeah, it's a live stream. What did you expect me to do? Alrighty. Welcome, everybody. Orion says, let me up. No, not with that attitude. That attitude. Bro, just yapping, and then you're like, let me up? No, absolutely not. You can ask a question if you like, or you can leave, Orion, but not. I don't engage with people that talk to me that way. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jared Berenstein, and I'm here to answer your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I am here to answer your questions and not get into fights with you. So, if you don't want to get into a fight, if you just want to engage on the substance, that is what we do here. I probably have not been meeting that standard lately. I probably have been getting into more arguments that I mean to, because I'm sleep deprived because I have a 3-month-old. But the intention is not to do that. You know, sometimes I ignore my better angels. Okay, Santo races. At least you interact with the chat and read posts. Thank you, Santo. Jeremy Wolf says, what do you think we should do about Iran? I'd rather not be there, but we are. So, Jeremy, the issue is that Trump has put us into a situation where we can't get out of this war unless we give Iran a bunch of shit. But that's the only way out. Like, there's no other thing that we can do unless we want to do a full ground invasion of Iran, which I don't think America wants to do. So we either sacrifice a whole bunch more lives, human lives, both American and Iranian, and we waste a whole bunch more money on bombs and bullets, or we just end the war and do whatever Iran is willing to do to reopen the strait. It's a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. But this is the place that Trump has put us in. Because him and the Republican parties that are enabling him, they have allowed this to happen. They have allowed us to drive into this garbage fire cul-de-sac. And the Democrats have given them a bunch of opportunities to remove Trump's ability to do this war. And Republicans never take them up on it. All right, JHS says, I guess I'm not opposed to high taxes on the rich. Is that all Dems want to do for raising tax dollars? Yeah. Yeah, there's no other secret trick. You know, the billionaire class is hoarding money. They are hoarding untold amounts of money. We have worse income inequality now than we did during the Gilded Age, which is an age that was named after how bad the income inequality was back then. So, in order to refund the government, in order to start programs or fund programs that make everybody's lives easier, including the billionaire class, we need to take that money from the billionaires. All right, let's see here. Jeremy Wolf says, because of the buy, borrow, die rule, fix that and you fix so much. What do you mean by the buy, borrow, die rule? What is that? BitNevo says, Jared, how do Americans forgive each other in the end? Is it possible in such serious times? I think so. You know, we all just need to be the change that we wish to see in the world. And if somebody voted in a way that you did not like in the past, whether you're a left-wing person or a right-wing person, you just got to recognize that other voters are not your enemy. You know, it's the billionaire class. Alrighty, let's see here. Johnny says, how do we maintain the federal budget once we've taxed billionaires out of existence? So if you tax somebody to the point where they have only $900 million instead of $1 billion, they're still in the tax pool. They're still able to accumulate wealth. You know, when you have $900 million, you don't have to work ever again for the rest of your life. You will constantly be getting money, even if you're not a billionaire. It's not like, you know, there's this way of describing taxing the wealthy that the wealthy like to say, like, once you tax billionaires, that all the money's gone, you got nobody else to tax. So, yeah, so there you go. Now, then we all just starve to death, you know? But that's like not what happens in reality. If you tax people to the point where they're no longer billionaires, there will still be people who are wildly, wildly wealthy. They will still have an income based on that wealth or based on whatever work they're doing or businesses they're owning or whatever. Ergo, every year we will have more money that we can tax from them. Alrighty. Chuck Isberry says, don't like sharing their money. That is it. That is accurate. Johnny says, he means borrow against stock holdings and die with that debt so that you don't need to realize gain. Yeah, I think that we are in agreement there, Jeremy Wolf. Okay, JHS says, yeah, I agree. It's not good for the overall economy to be held in the rich. Hell yeah. Awesome times. All right, Risto says, ¿Qué opinas de los hermanos Batista? Are you talking about the actor from Guardians of the Galaxy? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I know. But yeah, I don't have any opinion about that. Alrighty, let's see here. John Abbott says at this point, every vote for a centrist Dem is a soft vote for Republican policies. An argument could be made, John Abbott, but again, I don't think that I'm not going to endorse that one. Gustaco says he's a good actor. Yeah, I think the best of all of the wrestlers turned actors. Okay, Scott Clower says it costs $90K a day to operate Zuckerberg's $500 million yachts. How interesting. How many schools, how many teachers could we pay with that money? How many nurses could we pay with that money? Jeremy Wolf says also there should be money management classes from a young age because lifestyle inflation is real. Yes, that is accurate, Jeremy Wolf. It sounds like we're on the same page in a lot of stuff, Jeremy. My apologies if I came off combative at the top of the live stream. Again, I'm going to cite sleep deprivation from having a baby. You guys want to see this baby that I keep on talking about? There she is. Oh, cutie pie. All right, Odin's son, good to see you again. Why would we pay teachers when jet skis exist? That's very funny. Okay. Santo Ray says money management and critical thinking classes should be mandatory in high school. I'm down for that. Jerry Wolf says you're good. We'll just have to agree to disagree on that point. I think I'm pretty moderate. All right. Well, where do we disagree, man? Let's still talk about it. Oh, thank you, Mia. Mia's saying that Gemma is so pretty. Shork says, "Ask what do you think about Mom Donnie, Gemma? Do you like Mom Donnie?"
I love him.
Alrighty. JH says a lot of their wealth is tied into assets. My question is, how would you tax that higher capital gains? Yeah, I mean, they're, smarter people than me have talked about wealth taxes as opposed to income taxes. I'm not one of those people that believes that it's impossible to make the wealthy pay their fair share just because they have these loopholes and workarounds. There's no law that says that wealth cannot be taxed, whether it is in unrealized gains or not. Handyman Group says, "Why do you love Mamdani?" I think he's great. He's doing great. He's doing great work. He's got great policies. He's a great communicator, man of the people. What's not to love, Oh, thank you, Ali. I really appreciate that. Okay. Jeremy Wolf says the billionaire funding thing and how it's switched during election cycles. Say more about that, Jeremy Wolf. Let's get into it. Okay, John's over federal prison, so we all know Trump and billionaires don't pay taxes. I think I know what you're talking about, Susie. Okay, Gustaco says you can't stop letting them get loans on their unrealized gains to start. Allie says, question, why can't you do 2 shows a day? That's very sweet. I mean, my wife will tell you that she doesn't like me doing one show a day. Like, she wants me to help with the baby during this hour, if I can. B16 says, if you fart on a cop, is that assault on law enforcement or freedom of speech? Ooh, I don't know. My personal belief is that is an assault. Like putting a fart out into the world that somebody else has to smell. That is not freedom of speech. You're literally putting molecules from your butt into their face and nostrils. Okay, let's see here. Jeremy Wolf, say more, Jeremy Wolf. We're getting into it. We're getting into Jeremy Wolf. Randy Maxwell says, I can't ever vote for another disappointment. It's all we ever get. I quit. Randy Maxwell, I would encourage you not to be that kind of cynical about politics. Like, that's what the billionaire class wants. They want you to be disengaged. They want you to not vote. They want you to not pay attention. Because when you're not paying attention, then it is easier to hypnotize you with misinformation. They want more people not voting, because the fewer people that vote, the fewer people they have to inundate with propaganda and misinformation to get them to vote for the candidates they want to vote for. All right, JHS's other perspective is that anyone can buy public traded companies and build wealth as a working class. I mean, you can't if you don't have expendable income. JHS, if every single penny that you make is allocated because we are living in a cost of living crisis, then there's no extra money that you can use to then buy public traded companies. Also, if you happen to catch the wrong wave of the boom and bust cycle, then all you're doing is throwing your money in the garbage, Alrighty, let's see here. User a bunch of numbers says the billionaire class is mostly Jewish. User a bunch of numbers. Please do not say things that are anti-Semitic coded. Jeremy Wolf says, give me a second. The character limit is making me think on how to phrase it. All right. Randy Maxwell says, but who do you believe? I'm in I don't care mode. Elect the worst. That is a terrible attitude to have, Randy Maxwell. And the people that you believe are the ones that are not lying to your face. So every politician that is telling me that the way that we get out of this economic hole is by cutting taxes for the wealthy, trickle-down economics, Laffer curve, supply side shit, I know that they are full of shit, and I'm going to vote out them when I can. Any politician that tells me that climate change isn't real, I can look with my own eyes and see that climate change is real. Ergo, I'm going to vote them out. Righty. But I gotta be honest, Randy, I don't really care for that kind of pessimism in my live stream. Like, There are people who populate the internet, you may or may not be one of them, who put out that kind of cynicism because they want other people to be cynical and they want to create a group, a fictional cynicism group that they can be a part of. Right. So, and I hope that that is not that is not you, my guy. Allie says, you know that they are lying when the policies they promote have proven to be ineffective. That is 100% accurate. Randy Maxwell says, not cynical, it's just exhausting. I know it is exhausting, Randy, but self-care is part of the work. Taking breaks is part of the work. But here's the thing. I am not going to give the billionaire class the gift of my complacency. I am not going to give the powerful and the wealthy the gift of my cynicism. I am not going to give them the gift of me not paying attention. I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to be involved. I'm going to vote. And I'm going to talk to people about politics so that they can do the same. Because, yeah, again, they want you to be exhausted. They want you to be pessimistic. And I'm not going to let them, I'm not going to do that for them. And I am going to encourage you guys not to give them that gift as well. How much do the billionaires have already? They do not get to have the gift of you being checked out and cynical and exhausted. Gustaco, Irina, Canalingua, and Mia, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Randy Maxwell says, but America doesn't vote that way. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, Randy. It is up to us to make sure that Americans vote for the right people. The billionaire class does not stop. They are constantly working this. They're constantly doing the work. And they're paying people to do the work for them, so they don't get exhausted. They just get to fucking hang out on their yachts, eating lobster and caviar 3 meals a day. And they pay people to go on the internet and convince people to vote for Republicans instead of Democrats or to not vote at all. And so we have to be the ones that do the work. We have to be the ones to convince. We have to talk to people in real life. We have to recruit and convince and strike and protest and boycott. That is how we get out of this, because the only advantage that we have over the rich and the powerful is that we outnumber them by a lot. Connie, Muzzking, Gustaco, and Mia, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. So, yeah. I forget where I was going, but I was in the middle of my, everybody's got to do some of the work shtick. There are good people in the government. There are good people in law enforcement, but they are outmatched. They are outspent and they are outmatched. And so we have to do the work. But when we do the work, when we do the work, we win. Randy Maxwell says, can this nation actually recover? Yes, 100%. What a man makes, another man can unmake, and vice versa. And also women and not the non-binary. Non-consensual learning says, do you believe gain-of-function research was conducted in Wuhan, China? Non-consensual learning, I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question, and I honestly do not think that it matters. I think it's interesting if that's something that you are interested in checking out, but the fight that the Republican Party wants to have over this is completely immaterial, and I believe is a distraction from a forever war in Iran, a rogue government agency murdering people on the streets and detaining people illegally in torture prisons, attacks on our government, on our infrastructure, on checks and balances, massive unprecedented corruption by the current president and Republican Party. Yeah. All right, Jeremy Wolf says, how would you feel about a civics test for people to actually vote? In theory, I don't hate the idea, Jeremy. The issue is that we had something like this before, and it was exclusively used to keep Black people from voting. So who are we discriminating against by giving people a civics test that they have to pass in order to vote? Who is writing this test? What language are they putting it in? It is so potentially disastrous and so potentially, what's the word I'm looking for? Disenfranchising of the people that should be able to vote. So you were not able to pay for a tutor to to be able to pass the civics test. So you are not able to go to a well-funded school because you grew up in a poor neighborhood. So you have a learning disability. You have dyslexia. So you go to a public school that did not have the resources to be able to give you a proper education. Are you in a specific area that a Republican administration is able to cut funding for your public schools civics education so that you and your friends who would vote for Democrats will not be able to pass the civics test in order to be able to vote? Yeah, it is. If I knew that every single American would have equal access to that information and equal ability to learn that information, then yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it. But that's a really big if. And I doubt that if there is a single Republican who can, rig that in their favor, that they wouldn't. Boston Celtics Glazer says, where do you stand politically? I'm a progressive Democrat. Canalingua says, that's the problem with it. There's no standing, just a bunch of sitting. I'm not sure what that means. Jeremy Wolf says, you can go to public libraries for free and educate yourself. Jeremy Wolf, but what about people who don't have time to do that? What about people who need help in learning things? I gotta be honest, man. I've been trying to learn Spanish for the last 3 years, and doing it by yourself is hard, man. It is hard to learn things when you don't have a teacher. And it is a little obtuse to assume that everybody has the free time to go to the library and learn things for themselves. All right, Quinto Ecuadorian says, MAGA can never defeat me. I own 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Ecuadorian, man, what is going on? What's up, Jill Thriving? Good to see you again. John Abbott says, if a regular person's house can be taxed annually based on its value without needing to be sold to do so, then they can do the same with billionaires' assets. 100% agree. Endorse that. Jeremy Wolf says, if you want to learn Spanish, you should watch telenovelas. I'm pretty good at Spanish. That's beside the point, Jeremy Wolf. No es importa. Lo que tú dijiste no es importa. I think I said that correctly. All right, Small Penis says, are there any voting restrictions you like land ownership or having children, just examples? No. I'm pretty sure no. Handyman Group says, are Democrats really becoming comunistas? Are Democrats really becoming comunistas? No, Democrats are not becoming communists. I think the main reason why I would say the Democrats are not becoming communists is because that nobody can really agree on what a communist is. And so if I say that the current crop of Democrats are way more interested in raising taxes on the wealthy, there are some people who would say, oh, that's communist. But there are other people whose definition of communism is a more totalitarian government that tells every individual citizen what jobs they're allowed to do and what jobs they're not allowed to do. And that is very much not what the Democratic Party is doing. Ready. Carbine says, next live, puras preguntas en español para que si hacemos que vemos como yo no hablo español bueno. I think I said if we did that, we would see how bad my Spanish is. Let me know if I said that, if I was even close to saying that correctly. All right, Gustaco says, me not being able to drink a cold one while I drive is communism. We're not getting a lot of questions and engagement today, but what we're getting is A+, y'all. Just either substantive, like we got new friends like Jeremy Wolf who are engaging in good faith, and I love it, and JHS, who's engaging in good faith, or we got my hilarious friends speaking in Spanish to me. Okay, JHS says, why can't we expect lower middle class to build skills, traits, less education over progressive laws? Excellent question, JHS. Okay, and the fixer mic is here too. So let me ask you this, JHS. The people that you are talking about, lower and middle class people, they are the ones that are struggling. They're the ones who are growing up in households where both parents are working in order to make ends meet. Sometimes both parents are working multiple jobs, which means that those parents aren't available to help and raise their children, which means those children are starting at a loss. It means that they are getting a worse education. They are less emotionally developed than wealthy households whose children are more engaged with their parents and go to better schools and have tutors and shit like that. So why is it that the right-wing conservative solution to everything is to add more struggle to the lower and working and middle class? Why is it that we can never expect the wealthy to assist in this project of bringing people out of struggle? Why is it always about personal responsibility for the people who are already working so hard? We are living in a rigged system where if you are poor, if you're part of a marginalized community, or even if you are middle class, you are being pushed and strangled. There is a boot on your neck that is making your life harder every single day. There's that Justin Timberlake movie called like In Time where people can live forever, but if you're poor, you can't afford like the years or the days that you need to survive. And every day, everything gets a little bit more expensive. Yesterday, the bus cost an hour. Today, it costs 2 hours. Tomorrow, it'll cost 3 hours, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a great movie, but that is the correct metaphor for what's going on right now. You might be middle class today, but if the billionaires have their way, they will price you out of being middle class, and soon you will be working class, and soon you will be poor. And the reason why this narrative exists of it is your responsibility to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get out of poverty and learn the skills that you need is because, number one, it keeps us from expecting the billionaires to be a part of this project where every individual has to do it themselves. It's the same shit with fucking recycling. You know, instead of actually going after the corporations that are doing the polluting and putting all the climate change gases out there, we're just telling everybody to fucking walk more and use paper straws. But also, it creates this idea that, oh, you're only poor because you're not working hard enough, or you're lazy, or you're worse than everybody else. It is a rigged system. It is a machine that takes money and productivity from the 99% and gives it to the 1%. Alrighty, Steve Long, good to see you again. Boston, I believe you don't have to worry about that living in Massachusetts, right? Right, Boston? Carmine says, you should do a video essay about the system with the movie if Mrs. JB allows it. Oh, maybe. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. We'll put that on the maybe list. Does anybody know if the thing I said in Spanish a couple of minutes ago was actually correct? I have no idea. User, a bunch of numbers, says socialism doesn't work. Socialism is currently working. Would you like me to explain how it is currently working? Let me know. Thank you, JHS. I really appreciate it. Quito, Ecuador, it says you were close. That is probably the nicest, most accurate thing you can say about my Spanish, is that I'm close. Alrighty, everybody. Get your final questions and I'm wrapping up. If you want to support the show because you think what I'm doing here is good and productive, then there are a lot of ways that you can help out. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a fan on TikTok, which is free, or you can be a super fan, which is like a subscription. You can be a subscriber on Twitch, which is also a paid thing. But if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free. Costs you $0, helps me out a ton. So I would really appreciate it if y'all did that. Even if you watch on TikTok, you can subscribe to my Twitch for free using your Amazon Prime account and then go back to watching me on TikTok. I also have a Patreon that you can join for as little as $1 a month. And there's a very fun incentive at $10 a month if you have that kind of money and you really want to hear some of my silly rug thoughts. Let's see here. If there are any questions that you have that I was not able to get to on this live stream, or if you just want to engage more on the substance that we were getting into today, like my friends on the other side of the aisle, Jeremy and JHS, or whatever your abbreviations were, I forget. Yeah, JHS. And you want to hit me up, man. Like, I'm always down. The project that I have of making people more informed and involved in politics and convincing people to vote for better politicians is a 24/7 project for me. And so anytime you want to get into this, DMs are open. You can hit me up via my website. You can email me via my website. Link is in the bio. And you could also hit me up on my Discord channel. Link is in the bio. And the Discord is great because there's a great community of people there, and there's recommendations for books and podcasts, and also for civic actions. Alrighty, everybody. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Handyman Group says, talk about socialism working in America. Sure. So, it depends on how you define socialism, because it's like, some people think that socialism is a totalitarian government where you're not allowed to start your own grilled cheese shop. But for other people, socialism is just the government using your taxpayer dollars to buy things that help everybody. Like paved roads is socialism. The military is socialism. Public schools are socialism. The fire department is socialism. Ergo, socialism is working. Socialism works in other countries as well, where every country that has socialized healthcare, aka universal healthcare, where you don't have to worry about getting a fucking insurance company to tell you that you're not allowed to get your cancer treatment so that their fucking CEO can get another fucking yacht. That's socialism as well. Working great, man. Working fucking great. All right, everybody. Again, regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. So do the work. Be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. Don't let yourself get exhausted by the billionaire class. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.